Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Muriel Anti, the chair of the Global Career Management Network at the World Employment Confederation, and I'm joined today by two guests. And on the occasion of International HR Day, we wanted to take a moment to reflect on the state of play in people management, and more importantly, in the opportunities that lie ahead to build a resilient workforce. So my first guest is Evan Bolstad. Evan is the president of the European Association of People Management, EAPM, and also the managing director of HR Norge, the Norwegian HR Association. Welcome, Evan.
Thank you for inviting me.
Also with us today is Amy Smythe. Amy is the head of the European Center of Excellence for Career Management at Right Management and an active member of the Career Management Network within World Employment Confederation. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you very much, Muriel. Very happy to be here today.
Wonderful. So let us jump right in. We gathered to discuss the opportunities for HR and businesses and their people to shape the new future. Some of the main driving forces for this new future are, on the one hand, changing phase of transitions. We see careers no longer being linear, transitions happening much more often. Individuals have so the opportunity to shape their work-life journeys in a different way, but also for many, this is an overwhelming responsibility. And on the other hand, businesses are disrupted and workforce management challenges are significant, whether we speak about wage inflation, whether it's about swiftly changing, navigating recession and growth scenarios with resilience, but also the big question around the B's or how to build, buy, borrow, bounce, and all the B's that we can have around workforce management. So let me start with you, Evan. In view of these evolving demands and challenges, tell us about what makes this post-pandemic situation different, specifically for people management.
And you mentioned it, post-pandemic and all these drivers. I mean, COVID has been a catalyst for change. So there is something good in everything, also COVID. To be honest, if we are looking back on how things were in the old days, let's say 10 years ago, we were highly influenced by scientific management. And that is long time ago, since Frederick Taylor did his work at Beltham Steel. It was managerial oriented, it was based on control. And history is written as we speak. And sorry for becoming a bit euphoric on this, but when we look upon digitalization, flexibility, hybrid work, new ways of learning, all of these issues are happening simultaneously. And for me, it's about creating a better world for the society, for the company, and for the individuals. And I'm quite proud that HR, as far as I see, are standing in the middle of this. We are driving change, and there are some shackles of scientific management. We have had thought leaders. We have had McGregor, Hertzberg, Hawthorne, Gary Hamel. We can mention them all. They have been advocating a change for so many years, but we have said this is smart. We should do it, but to be honest, we haven't done it. So for me, this is a time of joy coming out of COVID, because COVID is on its way over to history, but also because we have had this new liberty of employees and the way we work.
I love that, and I feel the regained joy, right? The regained freedom, and also all these changes being catalysts for opportunities, which I think is really what we should take away. And so, Amy, the career management sector has seen major developments in the past 2 years as well. So how do you see priorities shifting for yourself, but also how are the expectations that businesses have towards you and your services evolving? Do you also see this catalyst for new opportunities?
Yes, certainly our industry has really changed, I think, over the last couple of years. And I think what we see, particularly for our members in WEC, is that there is really a move now from outplacement, which traditionally many of our organisations have delivered, to a real emphasis around career mobility. And of course, career mobility was always something that was kind of spoken about as part of the overall conversation. But now organisations are really focusing on that and really wanting to spend, time, energy, money, really making that work. And I think that's because the talent shortage is really acute now. I mean, it's always been acute, but now it's really acute. We know 69% of employers say they can't get the skills they need. And so going out into the market is not an easy option anymore. And even if they go out into the market and they get the skills they need, organisations don't know what skills they're going to need in 3 to 5 years' time. So even if that person might be great now, they might not be great in the future. And there is a much more greater focus on utilising what organisations already have through that upskilling, because we know that individuals who are already working within organisations already understand the culture of that organisation, already understand how things get done around here, are really valuable, frankly, for companies. And we know actually economically it can be really great, because those individuals can be much more effective economically. They can be cheaper to train internally than go outside. But it's not so easy. And that's what we see when we talk to organisations, that not all organisations are doing it effectively. And actually, there has been, I think, over the last few years, a real kind of focus on technology and how technology can help in terms of, opening up marketplaces, ensuring people can move around the organisation. But less we think of a focus on actually changing mindsets. And that's the piece, I think, that we really need to focus on, and organisations need to focus on, because it is about, creating resilience long term. And sometimes I think we really need to understand that individuals are not just bags of skills, of course, and HR people know this absolutely, but individuals are full of motivations, values, varying degrees of learnability. Not everybody wants to upskill and reskill, even though we might assume they do. And actually, it is about changing the mindset of individuals to really open their mind about what they have, what they can offer. And that can only really be done through conversations. So I think now organisations are really thinking, okay, how can we really harness all of our internal workforce? And yes, of course, there's a technology element, but really, it's also about making sure that people go into it with the right mindset, are open-minded, and really are able to buy into that process, and therefore access the technology, because that's what's going to drive them to do so.
Wonderful. Yeah, that doesn't sound like an easy answer. And at the same time, I think what I took away is it's all about people and their mindsets. So it's actually a great segue for another question for you, Evan. This is well in line with what your organization recently published in the report, Creating People Advantage. And there you recommend to put the people at the center. Can you elaborate a little bit on that principle, and what does this mean for organization if they want to achieve this?
I will. And then first, let me just say that we did this study at the World Federation and European level together with the Boston Consulting Group. And for me, it's as a symptom by itself, you could say, that we are doing this together with a company that is so renowned and so linked to strategy, overall strategy. It means that people side and business side, they are like this. It's all interlinked. And people mean business for all practical purposes. And people, we are enabler for success, but we are also a barrier for strategy execution, because this talent and skills gap is so enormously. And people-centric, that means listening to the employees, collecting feedback, using the skills and knowledge of the employees to know what's going on and what is the customer need. But it also means that you should focus maybe as a customer. The employee should be a customer, and you should customizing your policies towards the employee, because that is how you compete for the good people. It's about producing employee engagement. It's about well-being, and it's about an overall outside-in perspective. You should organize HR around people, not around HR department or the systems, and all the HR workflows should be aligned to that. If we look upon what our respondents said was important and challenging, and that is the golden linkage. What is important and what is challenging? They ranked leadership as number one, and I think that it has always been number one, but I think it's even more important in the times we are facing now. Number two, interesting enough, it was upskilling and reskilling. We definitely need to lift the knowledge, and to reskill also means that we must build on the platform. We all know something, but when jobs are going away and new emerge, we cannot just send people out and say that we want to employ new ones. It's not the dignity we want to have. It's not good ethics, but it's also not. It's not possible, because then those people we want to hire, they are not there because of the demographic shift and all that. We need to invest in people. As you mentioned, it is about strategic workforce planning. That was number 3 on the list. It's about the long-term perspective. It's about people logistics, you might say. Change management, organizational development design, and talent ecosystem management. I mean, all these elements together, for me, build a holistic perspective on employee-centric policy. And I might also add, another interesting finding is that we all seem to converge across territories and across branches. It might be that there is some kind of virus-infected perspective on this, that we all use the same consultants and all read the same books and we know the right answer. But I think, in fact, that we are building some kind of common understanding that if we are going to enable success and take away barriers for strategy execution, we just need to invest in people. That's the only way out of this.
Wonderful. So, yeah, Amy, career management advocates also for a human-centered approach. So you said it's all about people, and Evan is now saying, you know, it requires to link up people and the general strategy, so embed it all together, to invest in people. And I think that links well back to what you said about people not being commodities that we can just shift here and there. It's these are like customers. So how do you see, Amy, the role of career management to support organizations in this putting people at the center from your perspective?
Yes, I think that it was really interesting what Evan said there about, you know, the kind of listening and how listening creates engagement. You know, when people feel listened to, they're more likely to be engaged in your kind of final, you know, whatever the solution is that you're going to engage within your organization. And I suppose that comes back to what I said previously about the importance of coaching and conversations. And of course, systems, technology, that's all important as kind of underpinnings. But the magic happens when you listen and you talk to each other. And that's something that we truly believe in our industry, that it is about those conversations that are really critical, particularly in a world that is really complicated. You know, the employment market is so complicated at the moment. You know, you've got skill turnover, really high skill turnover. What is hot today won't be hot tomorrow. We know that organizations are employing multiple employment options. So previously, where you know, you might have had an employed option and you might have had a contingent option. Now there are so many hybrids which organisations are coming to the market with. And of course, that's all set against the backdrop of digitalisation and in industry volatility. And to expect an employee to really, you know, be able to grapple with all of those things and know exactly what they need to do in terms of their employability is really challenging. I think this kind of kernel of listening and conversations are really important. And sometimes I think organisations overestimate how often career conversations are happening. And we did a piece of research recently that only 63% of people, and this was a European piece of research, say they have a conversation, they only have a conversation once or indeed never with their manager around their career. So these types of conversations aren't necessarily happening. And we believe as an industry that this is an absolute cornerstone for ensuring that both organisations get the people they want, but also individuals get the careers we want. And I think one of the new things that we're starting to advocate, and that's, I think, similar to what EAPM is advocating, is that it's not just for career management, it's not just for employed people, it's for all employment contracts, whether that be contingent or whether that be employed. And we know that managers sometimes don't have the skills to have these types of conversations. And of course, that's the skill that we bring to the party, I think, as career management organisations. That's what we are really good about. And we know that when people have career development conversations, they're more likely to engage in upskilling activities and they're more likely to stay in organisations. And what I hear from companies when we're talking to them is that people are not upskilling as quickly as they need them to. You know, they're not engaging in these really significant change activities that organisations need to go through in order to be relevant in the future. So it's often an underappreciated part of this kind of career development landscape, but it's, in my view, it's the one that has the most impact. So having this kind of human-centered communication, conversation-based approach means that organizations do get the right skills at the right time, at the right place, at the right cost, but also that employees start taking ownership of their careers and driving that forward in tandem with their organization.
Wonderful, right. So you were also saying that kind of putting in place these career management or these active listening conversations with workers of all kind might be a key ingredient to workers in business agility, if I understand you well. So in fact, one of this year's International HR Day thread is about fostering sustainable business, and many organizations do nowadays more than ever, but it's not a specifically new feature, do seek to build more resilience and agility to better absorb the external shocks, the next pandemic, the next geopolitical disruption. So while some key elements of agility, I believe, are built within operations, the true enabler might even probably be in HR and workforce management. And I know even this is kind of what you said at the beginning, right? How do you see the role of HR in the sustainability context, and how do HR plans foster sustainability?
I mean, if you look upon the sustainability goals from the United Nations, for me, it's all about HR. No poverty, zero hunger. And that is about providing an outcome for each and one of us and enable societies to take care of themselves, of their individuals. It's about health and well-being. That is very much the company responsibility. Quality of education, we know that the learning which takes place within the workplace, that is about HR. Gender equality, equal opportunities, decent work and economic growth. And last but not least, climate, digitalization, remote learning, and all that kind of stuff. We don't travel far away for 1 hour's meetings anymore. Something come out of everything, also on the positives, and that also goes for the COVID. So for me, we are the true linchpins of people in a sustainable working life context. It's about employability very much, I think, and I think your branch should have a lot and maybe more credit than it gets on in the learning on the learning issues, because you are a part of an ecosystem which provides learning to individuals, and what one individual learn in one company might be transferred to another one. So you are the bees flying around in many ways on this, and I think that we should have a challenging my own community, HR. We might be criticized, and with right, to focus too much on those who are on our salary list, and only those. We should probably think more of ecosystems, and you are definitely a part of the ecosystem HR works within. I think all companies understand that we are a part of a wider unit, a bigger entity consisting of society, individuals, and companies again. In Norway, we have a saying, directly translated, it might sound a bit blunt, but you just do not pee in the well, we say. And by that we mean that if you are dependent on something, you do not pollute it. And that is also when it comes to how you treat people. We must take care of individuals because, yes, they are labor, but they're also individuals who are going to contribute to build welfare, and welfare we all are dependent on. And if we are able to build that kind of understanding perspective, for me, work also becomes more motivating. It's about HR being bigger than itself. I would say that 30 years ago, we had consultants writing a really successful book called War for Talent. And in the context of Ukraine and all that, I think we should say, build talent, don't go to war.
Indeed. I love how you describe this ecosystem idea and having HR being bigger than itself, right? So being part of a bigger system and taking care of all the parts make it bigger than the sum of the parts, right?
May I add one more thing?
Oh, please.
I mean, digitalization and learning. Many years ago, I visited MIT and met a guy called Nicholas Negroponte. He was the star of his time. And he said, you do not understand the scale or scope of what is going on. And he was totally right. He was totally right. And I think that the digitalization for learning, that might be the biggest contribution to democratization of learning since Gutenberg was around. So this is fantastic. History is written as we speak.
This is so true. The digitalization being the fastest enabler. So Amy, the last question for today is for you, and I know we would love to talk for ages, but let's see, maybe we can continue this discussion later on another occasion. But the last question for today is for you, Amy. If we think about work in a broader sense, with more flexibility, all forms of employment, as you were mentioning, how do you see the role of career management firms to build this sustainability that businesses need to remain competitive in an ever-changing world?
Yeah, I mean, I think sustainability is a big challenge, even in the most narrow sense of that. We know organizations are recruitment's at an all-time high at the moment, but it's about keeping individuals. That's the real challenge. And I think from our perspective, we really want to take a very long-term view in the career management industry. And that's probably a little bit in contrast to the recruitment industry, where the focus is really about getting the next job. And I think Evan mentioned it. For us, it really is about employability. It's not just about, you know, where are you going to get the next job? How are you going to increase your salary by, you know, this amount? It really is about staying employable for the rest of your life, and also allowing people the skills to take responsibility for their career. And I think sometimes as HR people, and also for us in the career management field, we sort of believe that everybody, you know, believes that their career development is in their own hands. And actually, that's not necessarily the case. And referring back to that survey I talked about earlier, you know, we found a substantial minority actually didn't believe that career development was in their hands. And that's something that we believe it's our mission to change, and to just kind of mirror what Evan's saying in this kind of macro setup. You know, it is really our mission to get people to be in work, and when people are in work, they contribute to society, and that is really important, and that's part of our DNA as career management organisations. And I think that message goes for all employment relationships, you know, that full ecosystem, whether it is through people that are in permanent relationships or in contingent relationships. And just talking about that sustainability, the most forward-thinking organisations are really looking at their employees and making them fit for the future. And that might not be with that organisation, actually. That might be, you know, in another organisation in the future. But it really is getting employees to think about, what can I do over the lifetime of my career? And it to us and to me, it really is about, we are advocates of having a kind of transparent relationship between organisations and employees. You know, we all have to be grown-ups in what is a very challenging and changing world. And having that kind of transparency is helpful on both sides, because for organisations, it helps build the workforce of the future that they actually need. So if they tell employees what's happening with the industry, what's happening particularly with that organisation, where are going to be the jobs for the future. But that also builds responsibility for individuals, because then they are able to take that into their own hands and really drive their career moving forward. And I think as an industry, for the career management industry, that is what we really advocate for. We advocate for responsibility on both sides, and thinking beyond the organisation, thinking about, you know, the whole of you know, the whole of employees and workforces in countries. You know, how can we make sure they stay relevant for the long term?
Well, wonderful. So it's really taking this idea, and both of you have spoken about that, right? How people can be at the center of a more sustainable, more longer term viable system around workforce. And it's not about thinking just short term about what is the next move, but really the big picture in terms of, you know, people are the future power, and they count on people managers and career experts to support them to thrive. But it's really about being part of an ecosystem that is bigger. So certainly in the context of sustainability, ESG goals have to be taken in their social and workforce dimension. And I think you both were pretty clear about that. So not only valid in sustainability and environmental sustainability, it's also about social commitment to people. And as you both said, the technology, the digitalization can be a fantastic enabler, and it is one, but it remains an enabler, not the main driver in itself. So we have come to an end of today's conversation, and I would like to thank both of you for the lively conversation and the incredible insights into your work and what you believe in. And I know that there is much more, but if you want to close with an additional last statement, you're happy to. And else, I would say the conversation is closed for today. Thank you very much. Thank you, both of you.
Thank you, Muriel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.